Hello and welcome to episode 51 of the Bits and Pieces Cricket Podcast. This podcast is your weekly fix of cricket comfort food. We are the once a week cheat day in your cricketing diet where you can take a break from Sunil Gavaskar, Harsha Bogle, Sanjay Manjrekar, Anjum Chopra, Athar Ali Khan, etc. and instead listen to a bunch of jokers without any credentials say random stuff about the cricket. As always, we have a fantastic panel of knowledgeable nobodies lined up for your auditory pleasure. First up, the only IAS officer to ever be on our podcast, by which I don't mean Indian Administrative Service, but podcast introductions as a service. Thanks to him, this podcast is on strong footing and has had the legs to go so far. For after all, he is the toe and the knee of this enterprise. His wordplay is so on point that his jokes seem to be going one way, but they twist and spin in the opposite direction like a dusra, which is why so many years back, whenever he saw a dusra, Moin Khan would yell predictive appreciation for Tony from behind the stumps. Sebastian, the toe, the knee, the Sebastian dusra with a straight elbow, the giant on whose shoulders this podcast thrives, the joint who smokes up this podcast and keeps us all high. Say hello, Tony Sebastian. What was your favorite bid from the IPL auction yesterday?
Wow. Okay, that's a lot. Thank you so much. What a kind introduction. Hoping I may be the toe and the knee, but you're the better calf of the podcast. Hopefully, we shall soon play in Shinnaswamy Stadium or meet. Anyway, but yesterday, favorite bid, I went through the RR list and I basically saw anyone who had to do anything with Kerala cricket has been picked up by Sanju Samson. So it's a good thing to note. For 20 lakhs each, as KM Asif and some other guy, but yeah, good.
So are you saying?
And the favorite part of the auction yesterday for me was that it happened in Kochi. So went off without a glitch, unlike some other cities like Bangalore.
So, which means this year RR will rise, revolt, and resurgent, whatever. RR with all the Kerala players that they have. Yeah. Unfortunately, not a Mallu connection, but close enough. We will live with South Indian connections for now. In the year 2003, Southern superstar Rajnikant launched his new movie titled Baba. And the same year, Kawasaki Caliber launched a motorbike whose tagline was Hoodie Baba. But it would take many years later for the world to know who Hoodie Baba was. He goes by the name Foodie Baba on Instagram, where he organizes food walks. And he's also Sporty Baba on Twitter. He goes to every possible stadium to watch every possible game in every single sport. Last heard, he was seen at a nondescript Shivaji Park bench, ardently following the finals of the annual Rock, Paper, Scissors Championships, where the scissors were shredding paper to bits and pieces. And that brings him to our podcast today. Say hello, Vipul, also known as Sporty Baba, also known as Foodie Baba, and from today onwards, also known as Poddy Baba.
Hi, thank you so much for this introduction. I am also the only Baba who's not involved in any scandals. So,
wow. Okay.
Rajnikant in that movie had a tagline, Yenda Pakkamu Saya the Baba, which means the Baba who doesn't lean any side. It's a pun on Sai Baba. Actually, we should edit this out.
Saya the Baba. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Indeed. Welcome to the pod, Vipul. And as we said, Vipul is always going to stadiums to watch sports. That is, all Sri paths lead to Sri North stand. And hence, it is fitting that we have Srinath Sripath on the pod today. The FMS alumni with an ephemerally aluminium metallic intonation. The Olympic torch that lights up your airwaves. The radio-voiced Terminator. The Ashwin hater. The $1,000,000 monotone that stokes the green fields with Karan. Hello and welcome back, Srinath Sripath. What was your favorite IPL auction bid yesterday?
I have no idea what happened at the auction, but I know that PGK is tuned out of this podcast permanently now that you've made that intro. For sure. I don't know, man. Ben Stokes going to CSK is very interesting because whole world is now full on Dhoni over. Stokes is now the new king and Tala and whatnot. So looking forward to see how that rolls.
Indeed,
yeah.
On Spotify.
In with Ashwin hater before PGK could turn out. Well done, Nitin. Like full redemption episode. This is.
But also, PGK, if you're listening, please come back to the podcast next week, and we will have a steel cage match. Srinath versus PGK. We'll call it the Ashwin steel cage. Palembatti Shield.
It's very high praise to call me that when Tony is on the podcast. That is the most it's a to be number one on this train.
Before we lose Vipul also, I think we should get into
This is wonderful tiki-taka stuff that is happening here.
Yeah,
No,
pretty
to
much.
to refresh everybody's memories, on last week's podcast, for some reason, the entire panel started discussing the future of Ravichandran Ashwin's test career on the back of a few bad test matches, including one in Bangladesh, where he was expected to do well. But coincidentally, on that episode, one of our panelists, Kaustubh, somehow correctly predicted that Kuldeep Yadav will get dropped after being man of the match in the previous test match. And lo, it looks like the BCCI is listening to us. If you're listening to this podcast, BCCI, can you please make stadium experiences better? But we will get to stadiums in a bit. Before that, on Spotify, we have 44 ratings now. Our latest 5-star rating is from Isaac Newton because, as you might have already guessed, this is the every auction has an equal and opposite reaction episode. So, was that joke cracked last time? Yeah, now this podcast has gone long enough that we have covered multiple IPL auctions. So yeah, that itself is a milestone. But Vipul.
But Isaac Newton should have been on Apple, no? Like, why do you go for Spotify?
Oh, interesting.
Nice.
This is why.
Tony is
Conceptual
now
clarity.
Conceptual clarity.
with intros.
Just be louder, yeah.
Yeah, the conceptual clarity, man.
Yeah, the gravity of the situation has been tackled correctly. But Vipul, which stadium did you watch the IPL auction from?
So ironically, like I'm a proper misfit here. I hardly follow the IPL. I followed IPL passionately for the first 3 years, and there's a reason for this. So, for example, in season 1 of the IPL, playing at Wankhede was really tough for the away teams. Like you would have heard that. Like Yuvraj actually complained that after the match that the crowd was very hostile and partisan towards the Mumbai players. And there's some players in Punjab who also played for India. And then again, he was booed again in the semi-final. Then second season went to South Africa.
Yeah.
Third season came back to India. But then Wankhede was undergoing renovation for the World Cup final. So the matches were at Brabant. And what happened was in season 1 of IPL, the tickets were priced. So North Stand would be priced at $500 to $600. In season 3, it became 3,500.
Wow.
Now that's like crazy inflation. So people like me who watched almost every match would go for only one match because that's all we could afford. But then Wankhede came back during the World Cup final, during the World Cup, and in final, like the minimum ticket that was sold, like the minimum denomination would be 10,000 for a ticket. And it was sold out, and we know what kind of a day that was.
Yeah.
So I think the owner smelled blood, and then every ticket was priced at around 2,500 for IPL.
Oh,
Like it is so inflated that even now for India Sri Lanka match, they'll come out, the minimum ticket is at 700.
right. Yeah.
So it's not a question of whether I can afford it. Obviously I can afford it, but I don't think any fan should be paying that kind of money for that kind of an experience. It's not whether I can afford it, it's not worth the experience. So that's what I'm saying. I might be a bit of an outlier here.
No, it's fine.
Vipul
By the
is
way,
apologizing.
no, I think Vipul actually missed that part in human history where the television was invented, I think. You can watch sport and stuff on TV also. I didn't
No, true. But I'm just saying, see, for example, there are a few things. I'm a marketeer, and it always comes down to those 4 P's, and pricing is really important. And I always feel that whenever you pay something, it has to be worth the experience. And that's what I feel like. Say $7,500 for an IPL match in Mumbai, say 15,000 for something at Chinnaswamy for 3 hours, a match that most of them won't even remember after a year. Is it even worth that kind of money?
Yeah.
30
So
rupees
Vipul is
ball.
talking about things have to be worth what they're paid for. Jaydev Unadkat is looking around uneasily at this moment. But thoughts on the auction, guys? Whoever watched it or
Vipul
followed,
was
because I
saying
did.
How Yuvraj was complaining that Wankhede is difficult for heavy teams to play. I think RCB has the same complaint about their home stadium. That it's impossible for them to win anything in Chinnaswamy, especially with Chahal and all in the team.
No, the
So,
interesting part is I was just thinking about Mumbai Indians' history as Vipul was mentioning this thing. They actually played really badly with all that home support, right? And the moment they went to Brabant, where they did not apparently have the partisan support, they went to the final in the 3rd season of the IPL. And I think, so clearly it looks like the home support actually did not help Mumbai Indians either.
Last full week they've been all like there's a lot of talk about how Messi has completed football, right? Jayadev Unadkat has completed the IPL. Like, this is the 11th time that he was bought in an auction, and there are only
11th time. Wow.
Yeah, so it was the 11th time he was bought at the auction, even though there are only 10 teams in the tournament. And now he's playing for India. He's like conceding one economy, and I think it's probably the worst that he's been bought at the auction. He's only like a 50 lakh bid, but he's playing for India. I'm sure he's not complaining. It's been
on balance. I think it's been a week indeed, and I think he would prefer this combination of playing for India and not necessarily raking in multi crores from the IPL. And he's bowling pretty well. The test match.
He's won by Sanju Samson that way, basically. Who's also the most expensive player for RR. So, I mean, I don't know.
Who, Sanju Samson? Okay.
He's not complaining either.
Yeah, he's not complaining either. I think Joss Butler is 10 crore or something, and Sanju is 14 crore, something like that.
I actually foresee a day when Sanju Samson actually will be on this podcast.
Yeah, that's the whole
point of the pod.
This is all a long con. By the way, for listeners who can't see this, Vipul believes so much in being a part of the stadium/experience. We are physically recording the pod together for the first time. This is the first of Bits and Pieces. So.
Yeah, this is the first. Yeah.
Nitin, why don't you tell us your thoughts on the auction?
As I was telling you guys on WhatsApp before we recorded, I generally don't watch or follow the IPL auctions. I quickly checked up the lottery list at the end of it to see who's on top, and I saw that Stokes, Curran, and Green, all the all-rounders seem to have raked in the big bucks. I somehow it's also so far away from the IPL. Right, there are so many months to go. I really only roll up like 1 week before or rather 1 day before the IPL to see who's playing for which team, and then it still takes like 2-3 games to realize who is where. Suddenly seeing Shardul Thakur last year or whenever in a Delhi Capitals jersey was confusing because I'm like, wait, wasn't he playing for CSK? And then it takes a couple of games to get used to the new teams and all of that for me. Which is I was hoping you guys will educate me on what happened at the IPL auction.
Yeah.
No, just for the auction. I know there's a lot of thoughts and there's some hate about the fact that this is a television spectacle and the auction is not meant to be. Very personal anecdote. I'm currently at my parents' place and I've seen thousands of hours of cricket. Usually nobody cares. They're all doing their work. My dad's in the bedroom, reading up something. My mom's in the kitchen, something or the other is happening. Every time an IPL auction is happening, the auctioneer is basically sounding out once, twice, thrice to KKR, to RR, to Royals, whatever. People always turn up near the television the moment they hear it because it's such a unique thing, right? You're watching people being sold. I'm not justifying the cash auction side of this, but it's box office television that's continuing into its 15th time or whatever now. People don't care as much about even if it's an IPL game happening, unless it's the final or Dhoni is playing or whatever. Like the auctions, like it just moves people into the television set wherever it is.
It's basically Kaun Banega Crorepati, but celebrity edition.
And I think Srinath, your dad is clearly a fan of RCB because yesterday was the first time RCB was the only team that didn't get hammered. Everyone else won the hammer, basically.
Hammer and tongs. All right, so we don't clearly have too much more thoughts on the IPL auction, so maybe move into the
good warm-up. Trial balls are over.
Okay, now all reals. So since we have Sporty Baba on the podcast today, the central theme of today's episode is going to be the in-stadium watching experience of all sports and specifically cricket. So Sporty Baba, take it away. Tell us to start with, which is your favorite stadium and which is your favorite corner in which foreign field? Or Indian field, for that matter.
Yeah, I'll give Vipul a minute to think about this. But interestingly, Vipul, Srinath, and I were at the Brabant for the 4th T20I, right? And casually as we were queuing up, Vipul revealed something very, very actually not strange but amazing. Right? Basically, he schedules his entire workday around what cricket match he has to watch. Right? So
work month.
It's work month and work year. So it was actually his boss telling him, please don't finish all your leaves in Jan when you're going to watch the Indian hockey team in Bhubaneswar. So,
Oh, amazing.
So during the middle of the workday, apparently he has a 3 hour slot where he'll go to Wankhede and watch a match and then stay 3 hours extra and like just finish off his workday, right? So I think there is a definite sort of spin-off podcast where people discuss productivity or LinkedIn, something that can happen, but this is not that podcast. So Vipul, why don't you tell us maybe how you got into it and like what your favorite stadium is or whatever, basically.
So I've been to a few stadiums, say Wankhede, Brabon, Deva Patil. Then I've watched a couple of matches at Eden, Chinnaswamy, Motera, Mohali, and Pune. When I say Motera, old Motera, and the last one was at Indore. So quite a few stadiums. One thing that is consistent is that facilities are terrible. It's very difficult to get tickets. If it's an ICC event, then forget about it. Like then it's you need to be like really agile to get those tickets. They're sold off in no time. But talking about say every stadium's different, so it all starts like I'll also like go one step backwards. Like the most common question that I get asked is that stadium में कुछ दिखता भी है क्या? Like it comes from there. So I'm like, of course, that's the reason why we go there. And there are few things that you understand in a stadium which you don't understand on TV. So the first thing you have to do is take a straight view so that you can see whatever is happening.
Team straight view.
Yeah, team straight view always. So once you have that, so for example, there was an IPL match in season 3 where Mumbai Indians were playing at Deva Patil, and it was an away match, but it was like a home match for Mumbai Indians. So in that match, I remember what happened was Adam Gilchrist was the captain of Deccan Chargers. He took off long on, and then Kyron Pollard tried to go after the short ball. He top edged it, and he was out at third man. Like that happened in middle of the overs. So we in stadium could see that, but if this would have happened on TV, there is no way I could have caught it. Or
they were showing cheerleaders at that time on TV.
Yeah, so
no, MRF blimp. It was very popular. They used to keep showing it. They used to call it a technological marvel. Do you remember that? It is a blimp, not even one of those blimps that flies horizontally. It is just suspended there.
It's the original LED Zeppelin.
Yeah, so
good one.
So out of all the stadiums that I've been to, Bangalore's end stand is absolutely phenomenal if you want to watch a test match.
Yeah.
That view is crazy. Like you cannot get that view. The view is so good that at least on day one of a test match, you will have one usher who will actually ask you to sit down or not move when the batsman's facing from that end, because you will directly be in the batsman's eye. So
actually the view is so good that you can even put up with people randomly shouting RCB in the middle of a test match.
Yeah,
sorry, please go on.
In fact, the India Sri Lanka test last time we met in.
Yeah, so the first time actually I saw you was when you were wearing the North Stand shirt, and I'm like ये अपना आदमी दिख रहा है, but ठीक है, इसको हम बाद में मिलते हैं. So
Vipul, you just gave the biggest selling point for watching cricket in stadiums. You can get to meet Tony Sebastian.
Oh yeah, of course. So
sorry, I'll keep interrupting. Please don't mind. This is my modus operandi.
No, that's fine. So Bangalore's end stand for view, I would say the North Stand of Wankhede just for the atmosphere. So one thing about Mumbai is like even in season 1 of IPL, where away teams, like all the other cities who are struggling to understand how this thing works, Wankhede was very different. Like they got behind the home team. It doesn't matter whether you're booing an Indian player. It's not a big deal, because in 90s, a lot of people would go to stadiums to watch Ranji matches, and Mumbai, which was Bombay at one point in time in Ranji Trophy, would actually go deep in the competition. So the stadium watching experience and how do you get behind the team is something which comes very naturally.
Yeah.
So even in season 1 of IPL, Sachin actually briefed his team that Wankhede behaves a little differently. So he told Sanat that you don't have to get shocked if the crowd's chanting your name. This is exactly how it's going to go. And Sanat was, Pollock and Jayasuriya were like really hot properties in season 1 of IPL. So getting behind the team, getting the team over the line if it's a tough match, and this is all knowledgeable crowd.
Yeah.
They come for a
Hey.
lot of matches.
Nitin
Sorry.
suddenly
Sorry.
No,
Did you just call Mumbai the knowledgeable cricket crowd? Just taking.
No, so I'm not even into comparing which crowd knows more, or say I'm into trivia, I'm into quizzing. Someone doesn't need to know all that, and they can still come to watch matches. And a lot of people don't get it that it's a city where not there's a very little population that stays in South Bombay. So a lot of
Yeah.
people, like I grew up in a distant suburb. Now I stay in the heart of the city, but I watched 8 matches in Women's World Cup in 2013, and I would commute 2 hours in one way to come and watch it. Now, when someone does it, then they would genuinely care for cricket.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
so Wankhede North Stand definitely for
I
atmosphere.
think they have some great chants as well, right? Like, do you remember great chants? And
Oh
like
yeah,
very
so
different
so
ones from-
Sachin chant happened for the first time at Wankhede in '93, and
Great.
that's
I think
chanted.
you should take us through like the evolution of that.
Yeah, please.
So it actually started with Kambli to begin with.
Oh wow.
And then it became
Oh.
Sachin in that match itself.
Wait, which
No
match
wonder
was this?
Kambli. This is 93 Test series where the matches were at Chepauk, Eden Gardens, and Wankhede.
England.
So
Yeah.
so there is this very so Brownwash, I think, is a documentary on that series, and there is this wonderful video. I had posted it on Twitter once, where like Tendulkar walking out to bat at Wankhede in a Test match for the first time. So stuff like that, or
Oh.
say even in season 3 of
93 is when you first played at the
93
A test match,
yeah.
probably. Yeah.
So and then in season 3 of IPL, the first match was at the first Mumbai Indians match was at Brabham. And then the crowd was going Lasset.
Okay.
And a couple of friends who Malinga bowled the last over, and it was a very close match. Yusuf Pathan scored a 37 ball 100. And then
Oh,
my
yeah.
friends went Malinga.
Yeah.
And then it caught on, and next day it became RCB. Third day it became CESK. Then it became KKR. So
is that the origin of the RCB chant?
Exactly.
I guess so. and I blame my friends for that, because I was at the Chinnaswamy for the day-night test match, and Bumrah. So
Yeah.
one of my major attractions. So I love Chinnaswamy. I love going there.
Yeah.
So when Bumrah was warming up, you have the best fast bowler in the world. He doesn't play in India. It's a day-night match. Get behind him. The crowd was chanting RCB, and Kohli has to turn around and tell people to pipe down. But I know people don't get it.
So tell us, in 93, this was the test match where Kambli scored one of his double hundreds, if I remember right. Or that was the series, at least. I don't know if he got one at Wankhede. So they were doing Kambli, and then when Sachin came out, it became Sachin.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then again, the chant is even the Sachin chant. So there's not just one chant. So it was like Sabse Pyara Bacha Kaun, Sachin. And then it became Mumbai Ka King Kaun, Sachin. And then now it was like India
nice.
Ka King Kaun. So yeah, that is how.
India ka King Kong. Rohit. Okay. No. So tell us about North Stand Gang, right? Is that actually like the Barmy Army? Is it, are you a card-carrying member of that gang? I don't know. I'm actually asking. Is it a group of people who meet up for every game at Wankhede? What exactly happens?
Yeah, so exactly like so this started in 2009 test match, which was at the Brabham. And again at Brabham, because Wankhede was undergoing renovation for the World Cup final. If you would have been to the old Wankhede, you wouldn't have like that stadium was a very good showcase of how the infrastructure in the city is. So they had to actually do a massive upgrade. So before that test match, you first of all, if you have to go to the stadium now, in a cricket stadium, only you can go. Your wallet will be there and your phone will be there.
Yeah.
You can't carry anything else.
Not even coins.
Not even coins. Yeah.
Yeah. Projectiles.
So what happened was that on day 4 of the test match, people met, and that's a time when phones were allowed in the stadium. So
phones were not allowed.
Phones were not allowed. So Anish D'Souza and Ashutosh, they shared numbers, and so what happened was then these people who watched matches together started watching it again and again. And in Wankhede, you have people coming back to the stadium very often, because that atmosphere is unparalleled. Like I have a friend who has grown up watching matches at Chinnaswamy, and I sold him the Wankhede experience, and he was there for the New Zealand test match. I have a friend who stayed in US, but he would always come to India for the Wankhede test. I was in Gurgaon. I took a 4-day leave to come here.
Yeah.
So that's a very unique atmosphere. People love that, and people keep coming back. So
Right.
You've been friends who met at the North Stand Gang and got married.
yeah, there are a couple of people who actually met at the North
Wow.
Stand Gang
Yeah.
a year ago for the
Yeah.
news. Like they'd met previously as well, but they met at the North Stand,
Yeah.
and 2 weeks ago they got married. That's
There you go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Ajas Patil, tera kokdi mein tel.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Okay.
I think one of the things that I love about the Wankhede, I won't go there for any IPL match. And I think in general, right, is that IPL has the need to create an artificial atmosphere.
Yeah.
When it's
Yeah.
not needed, right? Like we are already a bunch of like cricket crazy fans. Like you can do it organically. And I think there was a West Indies India T20, if I'm not mistaken, where India scored 240 or something.
Yeah.
That's when I first saw the North Stand Gang in Mumbai, and I was like, wow, like these guys were
Yeah.
trying to get the Mexican wave going. It happened finally. Like there were lights out. All of these things that you see at stadiums, it doesn't need a
Clockwise
DJ
or
shouting.
Clockwise
Huh?
or anti-clockwise?
Always clockwise, man. Please. This is a knowledgeable crowd, okay? Not like... but anyway, the point being that you don't need a DJ blaring
Absolutely.
in your ear saying,
Absolutely.
cheer now, etc.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty surprising after, say, from season 4. In fact, there are a lot of people who went to Wankhede for the first or Brabant in the first 3 seasons don't usually go for the IPL now, and been branded as elitist and God knows what all. But it's hardly about elitism. It's just that you are not going to get that atmosphere, and the crowd has to chant Malinga, which doesn't happen. All these things happen organically in Mumbai. You don't need to get into all that, and people vuvuzelas and all. Like, I think they just kill the atmosphere. Vuvuzela is great in Africa, where it's a part of, say, something local
culture.
You don't need to do that. You don't need to replicate the Viking clap in every football match that you go to. Like,
one of the things I really like about the North Stand Gang is, like, I mean, I've not been to as many stadiums, but I've seen at least 4 or 5 stadiums many times over. The chants that Indian fans have is very restrictive and homogenous. We don't go beyond India, and Jitendra by Jitendra, which is a pod famous line. But the North Stand Gang, I think, Vipul, there's a fair few chants that you guys come up with every time you go, depending on the team. And I don't think it's just restricted to India, right? It's not just Kohli that you cheer. It's not just Bumrah that you cheer. If there's an opponent that as well, you include, and your chants are pretty creative overall. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. No, so like, and even if there are a lot of movie references as well. So when Jimmy Anderson and Ashwin had a face-off, and in that test match where we were bringing down the curtains on England, and Jimmy Anderson was walking in, so the crowd was going, Jimmy, Aja, Aja.
Quickly going.
I think this time taking like basic sort of inspiration from the football chants in England, there have been quite a few, right? Like probably rude, but also like fun.
No, so and when he mentioned about Bamiami, actually in the 2016 test match, Bamiami does this beautiful thing that after match they try and raise funds for the local charities. So we were invited for that. And they also signed a shirt and they gave it to us, and they also gave us the flag, and they gave us a book which has all the chants. So
nice. Very cool. Nice. Maybe the North Stand Gang can do something similar to that going forward. If it starts going, it becomes like, a traveling group. I don't know how many people are in the North Stand Gang.
Bharat Army.
No, so we do travel. So, for example, in 2011 World Cup, went to Nagpur for the match. Then we all went to Motera for the quarterfinals, and then we watched the final at Wankhede. So if it's an ICC event, but then again, things are also different, because in 2011, a lot of ticketing was done by the ICC. And then 2016 World T20, the tickets came out 7 days before the event. So getting an India match ticket is like the wildest competitive sport that you can get into.
I remember that because all the games I went to in Bombay were non-India games. I watched the root game, I think same as you, Tony. There was, I think, Afghanistan versus West Indies, was it?
Oh, the one where West Indies lost.
Yeah. I think that was also one today.
England, South Africa.
England, South Africa is the root game.
That's the root game.
So quickly going around the table then, like I'll start with you, Srinath. Tell us your most memorable stadium experience and your most forgettable stadium experience.
Wow, I think forgettable is pretty easy. I watched a couple of games in Pune in the heat. It's ridiculous.
I had forgotten
Tell us
myself, man.
which
Major
game
drop
was
on
this?
Pune Stadium. I think we should
No,
dedicate
this-
5-minute Pune rant to Vipul.
Oh yeah, please. Because
No.
Pune markets itself as having great Bangalore-like weather. So please let us bust some myths today on the podcast.
So for me, I think it was the worst of all worlds to go back to Vipul's point about IPL. I don't even remember who was the opponent, but this was during the Pune Warriors India time.
Oh,
And it was a
dark
4
ages.
p.m. Was a 4 p.m. start. I don't know if it was Steven Smith or Mitch Marsh. One of them was the captain for Pune, and it was just so ridiculously bad that I don't remember the cricket much at all. Like we would just go every 3-4 hours to get water. We'd pour some water on our heads and come back. We'd be wearing caps. That's the day I regretted not wearing a floppy hat and everything. I'd never had one, but I would have bought one for this. And it was so like the thing was for IPL, I think we paid around 3K for the ticket, and it was an open stand without any roof on top. And you'd go to the toilets, and you can imagine the state. Like it was supposed to be one of the newest stadiums, but it was so bad that like I've never gone back to the stadium. I mean, I've watched like maybe. So I used to work in Pune briefly, and I've seen like I think it was a Ranji game after that, but that was okay. I mean, you're there on your own, not for an IPL experience or anything. I didn't pay anything for the second time. The IPL game, I think, was by far my worst in all possible respects. Like, they don't let you carry anything, you can't carry water, you're under the sun, there's no shade, and then there's all this stuff on top. So, yeah, it was very artificial. Best
all for the princely sum of 3,000 rupees.
3,000 rupees, yeah. Best experience, I think, was easily, it's actually between two games. One was the Bangalore test in 2017, Australia, India. It was day 3.
Epic,
it was
of course.
Phenomenal atmosphere.
Oh, so all of us were at that match.
RCB, but yeah, nonetheless.
Hey, were you all in North? I was in North Stand for that test match. The Bangalore North Stand.
And stand again, yeah.
I was in one of the lettered stands. I don't think it was like one of those. But basically, it was Kohli driving the crowd to get it.
Yeah. That was the only contribution from Kohli in that test match. Also spotted Steve Smith doing the brain fade. He contributed nothing with the bat, but he still left his print on the game. Tony is looking at me with narrowing eyes. But
No, I really enjoy being at the Chinnaswamy. Nitin, I think we met briefly in the rained out game where Varun Aaron bowled that pitch to Amla. That was like the only morning of play that we had. So even those kind of days are like, because I don't know if it's the weather or the stadium experience or whatever, but you don't regret being in the traffic for 30 minutes to get there. It's always worth going to that stadium. The other one I remember was 2011 World Cup, England, South Africa. It was like a 171 plays, 169 game. And it was like a
that's the Chennai game.
Yeah, that was in Chennai.
I remember it was a day game, obviously, in the heat of Chennai. I remember that the stands were practically empty.
Where we were sitting was like completely full behind deep square or something. I don't know if it's the straight stands or the ones that were closed, but it was really good.
The knowledgeable Chennai crowd, of course.
Well, of course.
Sorry,
it was a great game. I remember. I think Stuart Broad busted a gut to win that game for England, because England had a glorious campaign, beat South Africa, tied with India, lost to Bangladesh, lost to Ireland.
Wait, are you just like remembering results or just randomly making?
Nitin was a Cricinfo employee.
Exactly.
So that's okay. That we all like have professional work and all, but like
2011 World Cup, I think all of us remember what all happened. Surely we all remember India tying with England in Bangalore and Ireland defeating England. Come on, Daddy.
Yeah.
And you can generally say England lost to Bangladesh, and it'd be true. In most World Cups, it happens. Maybe not in the last 2-3 years.
I only watched the games in Chennai in that World Cup, but I do remember, Nitin, I didn't know you that time, but I think you were on comms when Zahir bowled that to Hussey in the quarters.
Yeah.
Was that a cutter to get him bowled?
Knuckle ball.
at the
Yeah.
time, the knuckleball. So
Yes.
I'm sure your memories are very bright from that time. It's 11 years long, but yeah, it's a great
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah. Tony has gone for a toilet break, which is keeping with the stadium experience in India. So I'll come to Vipul then. Vipul, your most memorable and most forgettable experience. You've seen a lot of stadiums, so give us something that we probably don't know of.
Forgettable is a very personal one. It hurt me when it happened. So I was studying in Ahmedabad for a couple of years, and I'd come to Mumbai for a Ranji match, and this was at the BKC, and so we play Ranji at like multiple places at Diva Patil in BKC, at Brabant, at Wankhede. So we absolutely hate it, and I learned it in a very hard way. I went to the stadium, and the person said allowed nahi hai. And I literally, as a student, and I was literally begging that, listen, I've come from Ahmedabad. I'm studying. I've taken a couple of days leave to be here. And he's like, allowed me. And even till date, like even the last Ranji match, which happened at the BKC ground, only the MCA members are allowed. Absolutely no clue why it happens, why it should happen in this era.
And it's not even a ticketed event, right? It's free entry.
Nothing. It's strange. I mean, you will have, say, what, a few bunch of people who'll come to watch Ranji matches. These people genuinely love cricket. And even say I watched a few matches of test matches from Brabant in 2011, and it was just awful. Like there is this guy named Omkar, OM16 on Twitter. He would go there every day with a pen, like a book and a pen, and he would do the scoring. And then he would tweet the scores, and this is an era where BCCI scores wasn't there. Ranji scores was a very popular account, and Ranji scores would tweet the hell out of him. So that is how we had to follow the match. So this too, but stadium experience, I'll say Pune. So I like Pune, the city, but see, the challenge is that it feels like that stadium is made for rich people. If you don't have a car, you can't get there. Then you park your car, then you have to walk for another 1.5 kilometers in dust to get to the stadium. Then again, if you want a straight view, then it is on level 4. Of course, we don't think about people with arthritis, old people, nothing. Then you get there, you are practically exhausted. You can do your weight check, you surely will lose a lot of weight one next day. And it looks like complete rip-off of Rose Bowl Stadium. So someone would have shown that to the guys who like are approving it, and it looked wonderful on paper. Obviously, these are not the people who go to the stands and sit in sun. It got approved, and look at what we've got. But then, of course, we also have Hyderabad Stadium. We also have the great Firod Shah Kotla. So that's a completely different topic altogether.
On that, I think this did come to my mind, and it's one of our discussions as well. Like the new Kotla is one of the most abominable looking things you can ever come up with again within the cricket stadium category. But I didn't name that because the best way to avoid that view is to sit within that stand, right? You don't see it well. Which is what I did. Was the
stay in the fire and watch the frying pan instead of the other way around.
Exactly.
I think this is where, like, when things get approved on PPT and stadiums get built, Kotler and Kotla are like the same.
Exactly. And ironically, it's not talked a lot, but Delhi crowd is great in a cricket stadium. There is very good atmosphere. It's a massively underrated thing. So, for example, in the 2013 India-Pakistan series, the first match was in Chennai where Dhoni scored that amazing 100. Second,
I was there at that one. Yeah.
You mean India-Australia, right?
No, India-Pakistan, 3-match series.
Oh, the ODIs.
So Dhoni was given man of the series as consolation prize to improve his confidence or something.
Wow.
After India lost the series 2-1. Yeah.
And then second match was at Eden. Ironically, the best atmosphere was in Delhi, where the crowd was there in 3 degrees, and they got the team over the line. So Delhi, the crowd's great. Even the stadium is close to the metro station. But oh my God, I can't even start with how messed up the entire thing is. Like in 2011 test match, it was an India-West Indies test match. On Sunday, a friend went to get the ticket. So he didn't get the tickets because it's Sunday and the stands are closed. So the only people in the stadium were people who had the season ticket, like tickets for all 5 days. Then next day he went again to Kotla. Then he was told that you are getting these tickets at Bank of Maharashtra
Oh.
So then he went there. He's obviously not the only one. So the quest to get into the cricket stadium, which started at 8:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning, ended at 1 p.m. on Monday
Right.
afternoon.
Getting
Then-
into a cricket stadium is a test match in itself. Goes on for 5
Yeah.
days.
And then in one match, they sold tickets of a stand which doesn't exist. So I
Sir, you
You
mean
have to
lakhs.
go there and build the stand yourself.
Yeah,
You might
so-
not do that.
so
This is like
I-
Suresh Kalmadi Commonwealth Games situation.
yeah, so but I feel that the fans are great, and but yeah, and a lot of people tell you that I went to the stadium, I did not see a lot of what was happening. So
Yeah.
that will always happen at Kotla, because it's the worst way you can build a stadium. So say if you look at, say, Bull Ring, or you look at the new Wankhede, you have 3 levels which will give you the straight view, and the side level is either 1 tier or 2 tier. The challenge at Kotla is 90% of it is side view, and the advantage of sitting in that ugly stand is that you don't get to see that stand, and there are just handful of people who can sit in that stand, so not
Yeah.
more than 1,000 people get that view. In fact, even the pavilion is not straight, so I absolutely no clue how it
Even
was
players
designed.
can't watch if the ball is swinging or whatever.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
see.
So players can't be team straight view either.
That's right. With the bad air, you can be in other stands also, and you might escape seeing the
Yeah.
abomination that is the
Yeah.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that the old Wankhede was reflective of the infrastructure in the city. I think the Kotla also is reflective of the nature of the city. It is a giant parking lot. Basically, everybody in Delhi has a car, so they converted the stadium into a parking lot. And then we have the Rajkot Stadium, which famously has the Lord's spaceship randomly plonked in the middle of it. So Tony, what is your most memorable
Yeah.
and most
No,
forgettable
before I
stadium
get to that, I
experience?
just wanted to check
Yeah.
with Srina. Did he mention you were at the Lords and Oval Test, no? Or was it the Oval
Yeah.
Test?
I was at the Oval Test and at Lords for the 100.
Compare and contrast, please, let's take benefit of your international cricket viewing experience.
Work
Sojourn.
Work experience. I think the main difference I would say is the ease of getting tickets. So I applied for the Oval ticket after the stadium was sold out, and basically what happened is what happens always in English grounds is if somebody wants to put up their ticket for sale because they can't make it, they can just go to the official website of the club, in this case Surrey, and they put it out for sale. And it's very organized. If you're looking for 2 tickets, it'll always tell you, the stadium's full, but these are the options you already have. So this is without going to the grey market to Viagogo or whoever else is selling. So the ticket experience was great, even though I went late and the stadium was sold out. So I managed to get tickets for days 3 and 4 of the Oval Test. I didn't have tickets to day 5, but it's usually free entry, and the free entry concept is amazing because you're basically trying to get people out for a summer's day. It's typically a Monday. It's a working day. And if the match is actually thrilling, people come. Or if somebody's bought tickets to day 5 and there's less than 15 hours of play, there's a refund. So the experience itself is like on a whole different level in terms of just getting in, which I found almost impossible at any Indian cricket stadium. The only ones I managed to get easy tickets in a relative sense was Nagpur for the World T20 qualifying stage, because nobody wanted to watch Hong Kong versus Zimbabwe, and I did, and I traveled all the way from Bombay. So that was the only time I actually got easy tickets in India to anything. But after that, I think the experience for me is one, there's a little bit of care shown, even though it's not tropical weather like India. There's a fair bit of, accommodation. So even if you're sitting in the sun, you can always climb up the stands to where they sell food and drinks, which is basically at the top of each stand, or almost all the main stands. So if you want shade, you can always go and stand there. So that kind of thing is, it's taken into account that not everybody's going to be comfortable sitting in the sun for a whole day. Security, there are reasons why we're not allowed to carry a lot of things, but it's at least very well informed. Like Vipul, you and I were at the game at Brabourne 2 weeks ago. For game 3, I think bags and water bottles were allowed. For game 4, it wasn't. I think the communication is the biggest issue here. You can say whatever you want, like it's higher security restrictions because it's in Bombay, understood, but at least tell us and keep it uniform. That is completely different in the UK grounds. And finally, I think in India, I don't think we want it, but the commentary pod from Sky Sports is a gift. You pay you shell out £10, which and then works for 2-3 years typically, or for at least for the whole season. So we don't want Murali Karthik in our ears. We want the North Stand gang with us. That is a difference, but I think that elevates the experience. Overall, I think for me, the biggest difference, I wouldn't complain about most aspects of the Indian stadium experience, but if you get, for example, the ticket buying process right, you have clean toilets, and you care about fans in terms of, giving them at least shade. These are basic things that you should get right, whether it's, a new stadium or an old stadium, whatever. They keep talking about how all the money from the IPL will go towards the fans, but it's like, so far it's just talk. We've not had it anywhere so far.
Yeah. I just want to add there, like you said, give fans the bare basics, give them shade, etc. One thing that I've always noticed when I've gone into an Indian stadium is, you'll have big crowds, right? Despite all of this, but 99% of the crowd will be male. And it's not that, I know that women generally are underrepresented in public space in India, but this is not that. This is, you've made the atmosphere so hostile, so difficult for anyone to get in. Women are not going to show up, right? And it's just sad. Long way to go.
No,
long
it's
way
a it's a great point, Nitin, because the women's game, it was free entry for women, and I don't think there's more than 10% of the crowd that was female at Brabourne 2 weeks ago. It's just like the historic precedent that you create and what you hear from fans who actually go, that kind of dissuades you from going. And it's a very small anecdote, but it tells me the power of the game and how much it's changed in 7 years. So I watched the game in 2015 at Brabourne. India women. It was literally 35 or 50 people. It was an international game. This time when we went, was a 12,000 seater sold out at the Brabourne. But more interestingly, I was at a local station in Bombay for the game before the Super Over game, which was in DY Patil. And there was like a whole bunch of people running to catch the local. It was mostly girls from school, college level age. And they were all holding on to a single phone, right? Wondering what was happening. They were actually following the Super Over on Hotstar. And that's changed that I've not seen that for a women's game, even among girls. Mostly people wouldn't even know. Or 10 years ago, the game wouldn't be on TV, or both. And it's just like good to see. And the main thing dissuading these women from coming to the stadium is like, if you don't even have proper toilets for the men, it's not clean, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to get like women to come to the grounds? Forget the fact that it's crowded and everything, but it's like really, really basic stuff. You just make it really hard for them to, to want to come. If you need incentives, there's all disincentives that exist today.
Yeah. That's pretty sad. So I think we've all dissed the Indian stadium experience, as much as we can.
But Nitin, you also have to complete on your worst stadium experience.
Getting to it.
Yeah.
This is like walk into Pune Stadium. It may take some time, but we'll get there eventually.
This podcast is your entrance to the Pune Stadium. So the first time I went to a cricket ground was, it was baptism by fire. It was the India-Pakistan Chennai Test match.
Oh my God.
Which happened in the backdrop of, the Kargil war and everything. But I think, I was just getting into my peak as a cricket fan. So I managed to convince my parents to let me go with a schoolmate and his granddad, who was taking a bunch of grandkids and me along to the stadium, right? And they were like, oh, they're going to throw a bomb on the stadium. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. There'll be police. It's not the right match to go to and all. Somehow I managed to convince my parents and we went for that game. I remember we were not in very pricey stands, right? We were in one of the cheaper side view. Bharat Petroleum stand is what it used to be called. It was pretty hot, though it was, I think in February, it was in Chennai, you have 12 months of summer anyway. We roasted in the heat. One of the grandkids almost got lost at the end of the game, etc. There is a wonderful piece on that match by Sidvi on the Cricket Monthly, where he spoke to a bunch of people who went to the game, including me. So some of my experiences or whatever I remember of that game is there. The stadium experience itself, you could see that it's a hostile environment. It is tough. especially as a kid, right, to sort of be there. Just being safe took a lot out of us, all of us. We were all also very worried because of the context in which that game was happening, right? But yeah, really, literally a baptism by fire. And I've been to Chepauk, I think, a few times since when I was in Chennai. And I've been to Chinnaswamy a few times as well since I used to live in Bangalore. Easily the most accessible stadium, one of the best stadium experiences in India for sure. Partly because of the weather also and the access to the stadium. All of that. I was brave enough, I would say, to take my son to watch cricket at the Chinnaswamy. I don't think I would have done that at any other stadium in India. So there are points for that. And I have taken him for 3 different games now, right? A test match once and a couple of T20 games. The rush to get in, past the stone walled sort of security entrances is not easy. And again, getting out of the grounds is also not easy because for some reason they make it all, very small exits. It's not easy to get in and get out of cricket stadiums in India for some reason. It's probably a security thing. With a child, that's pretty scary. But that apart, I think inside the ground, the experience was not too bad. And all of this, so I have to actually talk about 2 other experiences that I've had, right? So I was studying in Ahmedabad from 2006 to 2008. There was this.
We'll have to edit out certain bits of this if you get to.
No. Oh, you're aware. Sorry.
No, I said I went to Micah just to interject. So you can like properly.
No, so this was the India-Australia 7-match series was happening at that stage, I think early in MS Dhoni's captaincy career. There was a game that was happening in Baroda, which is a 2-hour bus ride from Ahmedabad. So a bunch of us from campus decided to hire a bus and go, right? And we had tickets and everything. Somehow somebody managed to get tickets for that game. We got to the ground in Baroda probably 2 hours before start of play, well in advance. The queues to get into the stadium, I remember, wound around the stadium a couple of times. So you were walking around the stadium, like a giant hadron collider before you
It's
actually
like
got
proper induction coil induction to
proper
match
induction.
scenes.
Yeah, literally.
Can you feel the electricity in the stadium?
Yeah. And this was, if you remember, a pretty bad series for India. They got hammered. I think they won one game, or a couple of games. They won the dead rubber in Bombay, where Murli Karthik hit Brett Lee for a 6. I think we remember that. And they won one more. Sorry, Zahir, somebody. Yeah. Murli Karthik bowled well in that game.
Murli Karthik might not.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say that about too many games. So yeah.
I said we remember that, and then it never happened. Yeah, so the game where Zahir Khan hit Brett Lee for a 6, that was the dead rubber in Bombay. But before that, there was one game that India won. They lost everything else, including this Baroda game that we went to, where they got hammered. As we were getting into that stadium in that giant hadron collider thing, we were checking the scores, and India lost 2 wickets in the first over of the match. I think Ganguly and Dravid were gone by the time we got in. We got in the second over. Yuvraj was batting with Sachin, and it was all downhill from there. This match famously is when the monkey chants first originated, and I was in that crowd, which first started calling Andrew Simons a monkey, and that then picked up steam towards the end of that series. And then what happened in Australia later was
I think this is where you clarify that you were part of the crowd but like separate from the crowd also.
and the fact that it's different from monkey bath also.
Yeah, it is definitely different from monkey bath. In fact, the exact chant was Simons is not a donkey, Simons is a monkey. This is exactly what was being told in that ground, right? I don't know. I think we can keep this in the podcast.
Yeah, we can. Definitely.
I mean, because it is true. And people out there know it happened. But also, one underrated aspect of India's stadium watching experience is just how uncultured the crowds themselves are, right? And I'm not just talking about the monkey chants, but even things like people don't have the common sense to just sit down and watch the match, right? The people with banners will stand up just as the bowler is about to reach the crease and deliver the ball. Like, where have you left your brains? I remember getting into a fight with a woman, coincidentally, who happened to be sitting in front of me, who did this repeatedly for every single ball. And we kept missing balls because she would stand up and hold her banner and block our view exactly as the bowler was about to deliver. And I'm like, what are you doing? Hold your banner when the bowler is not about deliver. We all came here to watch the action, right? It's just one of those things. And then we went back to Ahmedabad. We didn't wait till the match ended. It was pretty forgettable. I want to contrast that with, I've watched a couple of games. I've had the fortune of watching a couple of games at Lord's. Back first in 2007 when I was there in London on a summer internship, I went for one day of an England-West Indies test match. And then in 2019, I went for the World Cup and got to see a couple of games at Lord's. Firstly, Lord's, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, the only cricket ground in the world that allows you to bring alcohol from outside. I mean, there are many, that sentence has many things that I would like to unpack as an Indian cricket fan. Firstly, alcohol inside a stadium. Secondly, you can bring your own alcohol into a stadium. There's so much happening there, right? The ticketing process for that World Cup was interesting. I mean, tickets were available eventually, but you had to buy them in advance, and they would then mail it to you wherever you are in the world. So paper tickets were mailed to my home address in Bangalore from the UK, and I was obviously worried if the tickets would come on time, but they came well on time and all of that. I had a printout of the ticket. I landed on the day of England versus New Zealand. In fact, my flight timing wasn't great, so I had to. Basically, the game started well before I reached the stadium. So I was rushing basically from the stadium to leave my luggage somewhere and get to the ground. The access into the stadium was so easy. I could take a backpack inside. There was a very summary check of what is in my backpack, and I was ushered in. And I reached in time to watch Martin Guptill take the catch of the World Cup and dismiss Steven Smith. I don't know if you guys remember. I do because I was there. But you going from India, having experienced the stadium experience in India, right? You think Lord's, oh, that's the mecca of cricket. It's going to be, packed atmosphere. It's going to be tough to get in. It's like the calmest atmosphere ever. You can just literally stroll in, like, a walk in the park. The ground was full, by the way. It was a very packed stadium. This was an Australia game. You had English fans, Australian fans, a lot of good-natured heckling, lot of beer flowing, through the veins and blood of people there. So it is not like it was a gentlemanly crowd or anything, but it was one of the most pleasurable experiences as a cricket fan, as a sports fan. World of difference between what we get to experience in India and what it is out there, sadly.
I want to finish the episode, I guess, with I want to ask Sporty Baba and all of you, because I was thinking about which is the one stadium experience that you want to have based on what you've heard, whether it's India or abroad. I've been thinking, I think, the last 3-4 years and never made it. I want to watch from the ramparts of the Gal Fort test match in Sri Lanka. It's very unique. It's not the Western experience. It's not the Indian experience, but I'm guessing it's one of the most unique ones that you can have anywhere in the world, in the world of cricket at least.
Yeah, in fact, I had plans to go for the Australia test match this year, but that was before Sri Lanka got into, all the trouble that they've gotten into. But yeah, hopefully things improve in Sri Lanka soon, and all of us will go to Galle one day together to watch cricket from that from the top of the fort. It's supposed to be very achievable goals.
Exactly.
And it's apparently a fantastic experience. It is, of course, bring your own arak in Sri Lanka, and I'm sure it'll be great fun. We should do that. I also
this is when we'll get your friend Andrew Fidel Fernando on the podcast. Can you get him sooner?
Yes, absolutely. And I think some of us are also planning to hopefully go for the Dharamshala test match later next year when Australia visit India. Hope to see you there, Sporty Baba, and hope to see myself there also. Tickets available, with some sort of planning. Allows us to do some kind of planning around it, but it would be great.
Nitin, just to give you some stuff to edit out, right? Like I didn't mention my stadium experience. I've been to the MCG and like pretty much similar experience as what you experienced probably abroad, right? Like not too many queues. The only queue that was there, which I stood in line, was realized to place where you place bets on the match, which is also right outside the stadium, right? So quickly we moved on from that queue into MCG. It was quite a nice experience. Actually, Ajinkya Rahane played one of the great ODI innings of all time. This is a 2015 World Cup again.
Oh, you went for the semi-final. Oh, you went for the South Africa.
No, this is group stage.
88,000
South Africa
Indian fans at MCG. Wow.
Mohit Sharma direct hit, was it?
88,000.
No. Umesh Yadav.
Umesh Yadav direct hit.
Yeah. 88,000 Indian fans, 44,000 Malayalis, roughly. It was fun. But also, like, what I wanted to bring it back to was two things, right? One, Srinath, when you talk about iconic stadium experiences, one that I wanted to watch for the longest was Kerala Blasters playing in Kochi, right? Which in itself is like, It's called the Dortmund of the South with Dortmunders and
Dortmund.
But being in Mumbai,
Please explain that joke for the Tony assumes that everybody knows Malayalam, by the way, across
I
everywhere.
know Mundu. I don't know what the Dortmund is.
No, I like there is a scarf that these guys twirl in football, right? Foreign, like so in Kerala, very famous thing that you had as traditional wear was that men would just wear mundu below the waist, and there would just be a small sort of cloth scarf like thing that is worn above. So that is called a tortamunda. So like the eyes is like showing us now. Okay.
No, that
is called.
I'm wearing
but anyway, like
so for people who are listening on audio.
Tortamunda. Now that we
Torta basically is towel. Yeah, Torta is basically towel. So Tortamunda is the towel that you wrap around your
anyways,
legs.
Anyway, so the first time I saw Kerala Blasters was actually in, I want to say DY Patil. Do they play? Yeah. I think that was where the first ISL finals was, right? And then Kerala Blasters famously lost in extra time. Then my father-in-law had come here and we went to Andheri to watch Kerala Blasters versus Mumbai FC, and Diego Forlan 5-0 us. Like it was a crazy match. And then when I finally went to the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Kerala, by then Kerala Blasters had turned to shit. So this is the time when I think Berbatov was playing and David James. Yeah, David James was our coach at one point, and
the
he
famous
got
David James who got sacked, and
So one of my sort of achievable dream still remains to watch Kerala Blasters win a match at Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium. Again, a crazy crowd which comes in from all parts of Kerala, right? Because we don't have too many things to watch. People like to do it. So what I wanted to throw it back to Vipul was we've spoken of sports and matches where like the crowd is full and the stadium is always there. There is an experience, right? But you've been to several matches, sports where there are no Indian fans or there are no fans at all, right? How was that experience like, and why do you keep going back for it?
Also called Ranji Trophy, but go on.
No, but even other sports, right? I'm guessing hockey or any of these, even women's cricket previously for that matter.
No, so firstly, it's just the love of sports. And see, if you have stayed in Delhi for a while, as a sports fan, it's a great place because the city gets everything. The sad part is the city doesn't give a shit about any of the sports. So for Indian hockey, it was great that they moved hockey out of Delhi and moved it to Odisha, because Odisha really, really cares. Like if you would see the semi-finals of the last Hockey World Cup, you wouldn't even, like a neutral wouldn't even imagine that this is not a home crowd. So they really own up the event. They really are very, very proud. Similarly, if you have hockey matches in Bhopal, Ranchi, you get great atmosphere. In Delhi, say the Indian Open, the biggest badminton event that happens in India, you have some of the biggest stars in the world who show up. And the only time the stadium is full is when Sindhu's playing, or Saina would play, or it has to be one of the Indians. Whereas say if there are minions and daddies of the badminton world from Indonesia who are some of the best athletes in the history of that sport, you have no one. You have just 20 odd people watching it. So for me, just to watch it free, like say for example, I was there in Delhi when the Davis Cup was happening. I got to see Rafa Nadal, the greatest Davis Cup player, play a Davis Cup match for 0 rupees. That you
that's not a sobriquet that is so often used about Rafael Nadal.
And also like
former Tata Open champion Rafael Nadal.
So
Dhoni also do tennis.
So I did not actually, like, I think we digressed, and I did not talk about my best stadium experiences. So a lot of times the best stadium experiences are so good that they'll actually end up being some of the best moments of your life.
Right, absolutely.
So a couple of them that I would mention is, one is the 2017 India-Australia test match. So I've been wanting to watch a match in Bangalore ever since I watched Venkatesh Prasad telling Amir Sohail to fuck off at the Chinnaswamy. So I don't know whether that'll be edited. Okay. So
you've said worse stuff. It doesn't get edited.
Okay.
Even while you were there.
Okay. So then I've been meaning to watch a match at Chinnaswamy, and then in 2013, the India-Australia series, the 7th match was at Chinnaswamy.
Yeah.
But my mom was like, no, it's a Diwali day, don't go. And Rohit Sharma scored a double 100. And I was like the most furious person at my home for like the next week. But 2017 test match, it was brilliant because the context was crazy. Like we were decimated in Pune. We were shot out for 189 in the first innings, and Australia were 40 for no loss at the end of day one. And then on second day, there was this beautiful moment where Mitchell Marsh came out to bat. It was just the last over before tea. And then Kohli turned around and he's like, make some noise. And Chinnaswamy definitely listens to one man, that's Kohli. And then the crowd got into it. Ishan beat him a couple of times. And just before the last ball of that tea session, everyone was standing, everyone was clapping. And then that one stayed low. The umpire gave it out. Kohli was crazy. Ishan didn't know how to celebrate. The crowd had gone nuts. This is exactly why you want to go to a cricket stadium, because on that evening at the Chinnaswamy, Kohli did a number on Mitchell Marsh by just using the crowd. That's one. And second, I won't talk about the World Cup final because everyone knows about it, but I'll talk about something which is far more personal. So in 2011, there was this very big talk about Test cricket is dying. And the match that I mentioned, like the Kotla experience where tickets were not sold on Sunday, the second match was at Eden Gardens, where you just had 6,000 fans in the stadium. And on any day, the maximum count was 6,000. And see, Brabham is a very small stadium, but Eden is so huge that 6,000 looks very horrible on TV. To be fair, you can't have a worse scheduling. Like the match started on Monday and ended on Friday. I don't know who was doing the scheduling, but there were huge, big articles written, Test cricket is dying. So on day 3, day 4, day 5 of the Mumbai Test match, it was sold out. And on day 3, when Tendulkar and Dravid were batting, I don't think I've been to a noisier stadium in my life. And I've been to a few. And on day 5, it was that crazy day where so many wickets tumbled and Ashwin couldn't complete the second run, and it was the second.
Wow, that's the kindest we've been to him, man. Forever.
The PGK is back.
Yeah, no, actually, Ashwin was a man of the series in that series as well, and he actually got his first Test century in the first innings. But
he got married in that series, the one before.
Oh wow! So just 5 overs before the final, like when the match was ending, there was a Mexican wave in the stadium. And US fans, it never happens that what you are going to do is going to make a big impact on the sports. But that was that feeling where we felt that just by turning up on that day, it made a big statement that Test cricket's alive, and it still remains like the thing to watch in cricket.
Amazing.
Nitin, I think we should put your question out of the way. Vipul, have you seen a counter-clockwise Mexican wave in a stadium?
I just
It's always clockwise.
It's always clockwise, yeah.
I have definitely watched. I have seen a clockwise attempt fail and a counterclockwise attempt being attempted immediately after that and succeed.
No, but then again, that is also a function of a lot of things. So, for example, if there are more fans in the counterclockwise way, that's how Mexican waves work.
Yeah.
So
but I think you should tell us, how do you get a Mexican wave going as the Northern gang?
You shout 10, 9, 8, 7. so there's a countdown so that everyone's aware that this is coming. So then you try doing it once, it doesn't go off in the first wave, and then you start doing East Stand high. Then
you basically shout down the next time.
Yeah, and then you do that again.
Shame them into joining.
Yeah.
Nice.
No,
whatever works.
This, since he mentioned crowds getting into the act and making stuff happen on a cricket field, right? 2011 World Cup, the only game I could watch at the stadium was that India-England tie at Chinnaswamy. And England were running away with that game, right? After Tendulkar century, I think Strauss and Bell had a big partnership. Then Yuvraj almost got Bell out, but 2.5 meter rule. All of that happened. India were losing that game. England needed barely run a ball in the last 10 overs, and Strauss was still at the crease. That's when the crowd got into it. Okay, and there is this spell of about 15 minutes where Zahir Khan comes into his own. He first gets Strauss with a Yorker. He gets I think he gets Bell, top edging to point or something, and he also got Collingwood with another Yorker. I totally feel half of the credit for those 3 wickets goes to the crowd, while the other half goes entirely to Zahir. Because that turned the game around. For a while there, everyone in the stadium had bottles in their hand and they were smashing it in the seat in front of them, getting that. The entire ground was reverberating, electric. That was a really electric moment. You literally could feel the crowd contributing to the cause. during that.
Was there a
phase of
clockwise
the-
Mexican wave?
It's
That's real.
Chinnaswamy. Let's keep our expectations real.
They
but,
weren't cheering RCB, at least not yet. In 2011,
Yeah.
they were still cheering for Tendulkar. So there you go.
But I think just to sort of round up on this whole thing, right? And there are certain players who like make the crowd do things and also feed off on the energy. And I think, I mean, as biased as I may be, no one but Kohli does it better, right? Watch.
I was expecting Sanju Samson, but
Wow. No,
For
but
that, Sanju
yeah.
Samson needs to be in the ground and not in the crowd.
No,
That's
so
not-
much so that Kohli missed the fans so much that in South Africa he made the subs sit on the bench and clap and cheer. If you remember that, like tuck,
Yeah.
tuck, 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 tuck. Yeah. But I don't know what you think. Like watching a match when Kohli is orchestrating this is like beautiful. Right?
It's absolute box office. Like people who come to watch that, and if they get to see that, they'll definitely gonna come back. So ironically, we ended up watching the test match at Wankhede, which had a very minimal crowd because of the Omicron thing. Ended up being Kohli's last match as a captain.
Yeah.
And oh my God, like so the thing in India is that if you can watch day 4, day 5, I mean, sadly, we don't reach till day 4, day 5, but when your spinners are in the act, the batsman doesn't know what's happening and Kohli is getting the crowd going. And if you can watch a test match at Wankhede, at Eden, at Bangalore, it's an unparalleled experience. It's some of the finest things you can ever watch in sport. So that was just amazing. So Kohli, so for example, I remember even in the 2016 match, so the crowd would go Jadeja when Jadeja was that chant was happening, and Kohli would clap in unison, and he would actually feed off that energy. So for example, in the last match against New Zealand, we probably chanted every player, even the ex-cricketers, everyone was done. But when the MSD was happening, Kohli turned around and he's like, he's excited. He's like a proper MSD fanboy.
Yeah. I think that was also the series when he did that the dance. Right?
Yeah, he does it very often.
The GIF. So,
Yeah.
for the benefit of viewers who are listening to this, every time Sporty Baba is talking about Kohli, Tony actually goes off camera. I think he has a picture of Sporty Baba in a compromising position and he's pretending to say good things about Kohli.
Yeah. Sure. You see this.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
next Sanju Samson. Just kidding.
Cool.
What is your
Okay.
experience of watching Kerala play Ranji Trophy? That is what this should end at logically.
Yeah, I think we've reached the natural.
Should
end.
have mentioned Kochi Tuskers somewhere.
Oh yeah, Kochi. I did watch a match there. I think that's when they also like up the IPL
Ante.
price or something.
When-
Rightful
when
Gomes was
Gomes
there. I
and-
think Brent. Am I wrong? Was Brendan McCullum there?
Baseball originated
Yeah.
at Kochi Tuskers Kerala bus. You had Brendan McCullum and Mahila Jayawardene, who is the foremost thinker in T20 cricket. It all started.
I was thinking actually, like I might have been there for the origin series of baseball in 2015. So I watched an ODI 398 plays, 360 something, and
In England, right?
New Zealand captain, and Morgan was England captain. It was a fun game to watch.
In
Nice.
fact, Kochi Tuskers had a very unique story about their uniform.
Yeah.
Because
Indy Commandos.
No.
so the thing is that the highest run scorer, like the one who's leading, wears the orange cap, and the wicket taker wears the purple cap. So that
orange
was
and
a
purple.
combination of
Correct.
orange and purple.
Yeah,
Some
that was the
Wow.
explanation. Yes.
Nice.
That's true.
Amazing.
Nice.
There you go. That is your trivia for the day. Cool. Anything else, guys? Should we wind?
Yeah. Unadkat just
Real
reviewed an
fantasy.
Inside Edge LBW.
And one more review gone.
Gone.
reviews gone, huh?
All reviews gone.
Right?
Chalo,
So,
I think we should wind up.
yeah. So we are recording, or we have just finished recording this on Sunday, the 24th. Sorry. Let me do
Saturday.
that again. Force of habit. We have just finished recording this on Saturday, the 24th of December, and Jaydev Unadkat has just burnt India's third review, which means they don't have any more reviews left for this innings, which also means we also have run out of reviews. So we will call time on this episode of Bits and Pieces. It was great fun to have you on the show, Sporty Baba, and we look forward to running into you at some stadium very soon where the experience is good, and we shall all have a drink together. On behalf of Sporty Baba, Vipul, Srinath, Tony, this is me, Nitin Sundar, and we sign off. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
cheers.
Nice, bro. Nice.